up, y'all? It's Denny, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make this turtleneck dress using bias tape, as well as I'm going to show you how I add flare to the sleeves. Please follow your girl on Instagram at itsdenny_ and my business page at distinctive_stitch. I'm going to leave everything down below. I have a website. Y'all come shop with your girl. If you would like to learn how to make this dress, stay tuned and continue on with this video. Materials, I am using scissors, pink thread, pins. Now for my pattern for my dress, this is something I created from a dress that I already have, and that is the piece that I'm using for the turtleneck. This is the piece that I cut out for the bias tape for the keyhole. I have this piece, this sleeve piece. And again, you guys, I created this. If you want me to show you how I created this pattern, please leave a comment in the comment section below if you like for me to create a video. That is the sleeve part, and I can leave a video on how you can create that sleeve pattern, which is a circle skirt pattern. And then this is the dress pattern with the keyhole. And again, I created this from a previous dress that I already have. And then I'm also going to be using a sewing machine. Yes, I'm just showing you the keyhole. And I'm going to be using a sewing machine and this velvet blush pink fabric. It's like a two-tone. I got this from Rosa Fabric. I will leave the information in the description box below. First thing first, I am going to start with the fabric right size in. I'm going to fold it in half one time, and then I'm going to fold it in half again. So in all, I folded it in half twice. Then I want to take my pattern pieces, starting with my dress, and lay it on the fold part of the fabric as well as my sleeve. And then I'm going to take some pins and a ruler, and I'm going to come out about 1/4 inch. Now my pattern piece is a size small, and I want my dress to fit tight, so a size small. So that's why I came out about 1/4 inch. But if you're using a size small pattern, like if you created one for yourself, you'll probably come out about 1/4 inch. If it's size small, you're trying to get a medium, come out 1/2 inch, and that's how I do my measurements. And then here I'm just taking my pins and I'm just putting a pin mark so I'll know I need to cut out over this line for seam allowance, for room and seam allowance. Okay, and then here I'm taking my turtleneck piece and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pin that piece down so that it won't move while I'm cutting, and then I'm going to come out about 1/4 inch on each side, and I'm going to zoom in so that you can get a closer look here and you can see what I mean about coming out about 1/4 inch with the pins. So as I'm cutting, I know I need to come out this far. Next, I am moving on to laying my flare piece of my sleeve to my sleeve out. I'm going to do the same thing, pin it down, and then I'm going to come out about 1/4 inch for seam allowance and hem. Now here's a view of everything that I have pinned down. We are going to get ready to cut this bad boy out. So this is a closer look. Let me slide this up a little so you can see my flare piece as well. And so we are ready to see you too. This is what it looks like. I started cutting it out. I came out about 1/4 inch. I said, like I said before, and I also used the pin marks. So I'll know that I need to come out this much. Right now, I am going to complete cutting out the neck part, and then I am going to go into cutting out the last piece, which is the flare part of the sleeve here, and I'm gonna come out about. Well, there I didn't come out about 1/4 inch, but here I am, and as well as the round part, I'm going to come out about 1/4 inch. Next, I am moving on to cutting out my bias tape. Now, this is a pattern that I have already created. My bias tape, I believe I need about 11 inch. And so this is about 1.5 inches to about 11 inches that I'm going to cut out. So the width of my bias tape is 1.5 inches. And here I'm just pinning down my pattern so that it can stay with the fabric while I am cutting. And I'm just going to cut this out. Yeah, I'm going to cut it out on both sides. Here are all the pieces that I have cut out. Now I am going to get ready to pin them together. First, I am going to start with the flare part of the sleeve. I am going to take the right side and pin them together. And I am going to pin both of the sleeves like this. Next, I am moving on to pinning the neck, the neck piece, the turtleneck piece of the dress part together. So the right sides are together, and I'm just pinning the sides down like this. Now I am on to the sleeves. I am going to do the same thing. Keep the right sides together, and I am just going to pin them down. And I'm going to do both sleeves like this. This is the bias tape piece. I am removing this from the pattern, and I'm just going to place it to the side. Here I am going to use remove the pins from the dress, and I am going to pull the pieces together because I'm going to use the front part of the piece, one of the pieces for the front part, to cut the keyhole in the front. I am folding the dress in half, and then velvet can be a little tricky, so to be on the safe side, I am just going to pin the sides together while I am cutting the keyhole in the front. So that's what you see me doing now, is pinning the sides down. Next, I am going to take the pattern piece and place it on the top of the fabric, and then I'm going to take a pin to keep the pattern in place. I am going to take my scissors and cut along the curved line to cut out the keyhole piece. Then when I am finished, I am going to take the pattern piece off and clean around the edges if I have to. Then that top part of the dress on the fold, I'm just going to cut on the fold, cut down the middle right there on the fold. Here, this is how I am showing you how I'm going to sew this bias tape on the sewing machine. So I'm going to put the right sides together, and then I'm going to take the edge of the bias tape and line it up with the edge of the keyhole. And I'm going to take some pins, and I'm probably going to just pin 1 or 2 pins down because while I'm sewing it on the sewing machine, I'm going to pull and stretch on the bias tape a little bit, as you see there. But I'm just going to pull 2 pins here so it can stay in place when I start it on the sewing machine. But as I'm sewing, I am just going to pull it. So now we are going to begin sewing. So I'm going to start with the arms here, and I'm just going to sew the arms down, just like you see here, and just how I showed you how I pinned it. I'm just going to sew down. I forgot to mention that I am using a zigzag stitch, and here this is the turtleneck part of the dress, and I am just sewing down both sides. Next is the flare part of the sleeves, and here I'm just showing you how I am using a zigzag stitch, and I'm just going to sew that down. This is when I am going to sew down the bias tape. So I'm showing you, I'm begin to sew down the pieces that I pinned together, and while I am sewing, I'm going to stretch that bias tape a little bit. So here you are just going to sew this going all the way around, and I am using a zigzag stitch, and I'm just going to sew it all the way around. And when I get to the center part, you're going to lift the foot up, turn it a little bit, and then continue to sew all the way down to back up to the top part. This is how it looked at first. We are not finished yet. Then what we are going to do next, of course, clip the thread off at the end. I'm going to bring it a little closer to me so you can see what I am about to do. So all I'm going to do is turn the other side of the bias tape that we have not sewn down. We're going to kind of turn it in as if we're hemming up, just as if we are doing a hem. I'm just adjusting myself a little bit here. And so you're just going to turn it up, and I turn mine up twice, and then I pin it. Turn it up twice here, and then I take a pin and I just pin it down, and I do that to the whole thing, that whole keyhole part. So I'm just going to turn it in twice again and then pin, and I'm going to do that all the way around, and that's how you create that bias tape concept. Okay, and I am going to sew down on a straight stitch. I recommend that you sew sort of kind of like in the middle, or feel around for that seam. Try not to sew where you can see it, like on the front of the dress. You'll be able to see the thread because you came over too far in. So you just want to make sure that you kind of follow that seam or play it safe and sew down the middle. Try not to go too close inside of the dress. How it will look when you are finished pinning, and I am going to sew a straight stitch. And here I'm showing you on my sewing machine how I am going to sew this down using a straight stitch, and I am sewing down on the inside of the dress, and I recommend again like sewing in down the center. This is how it will look when you are finished. And so now what I'm going to do is fold the dress in half with the right sides touching each other, and I'm going to take a pin and pin it, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to sew a straight stitch like a slant, sort of like a triangle, making it like a triangle. I'm going to take like a dark bobby pin so that you can see what I'm talking about here. To give an example, I'm just going to sew a straight stitch going like this here, coming close. You want to make sure you come in close, like the tip part of it, so that it won't kind of like sew into the dress and look a little awkward. So yeah. Here I'm just sewing that straight stitch right along that piece, right in the front. This is how the dress will look in the front. Okay. And then I'm just going to take that top part that I had cut in the beginning part, and I'm just going to take my pins, pin it, and then I'm going to sew that on a machine using a zigzag stitch. Next, I am taking my dress and I am putting the right sides together, and I'm going to take my pins and pin around the top shoulder part and the sides of the dress. Next, I am going to hem my sleeve, the flare part of the sleeve. I'm going to take a pin, fold it in twice, and pin it, and then I'm going to straight stitch that on my sewing machine. Next, I am moving on to sewing down my dress. Here I am sewing down the sides. When I am finished, I am going to hem the bottom of my dress. All I am doing is folding it in twice and pinning it down. Now I am moving on to the sleeves. I am taking the flare part and my sleeve, and I am flipping it inside out, just the sleeve part, and I am matching the seams together, and I'm going to pin around that part. Next, I am sewing the bottom hem of my dress. I'm going to sew this on a zigzag stitch. Then I'm going to sew that sleeve on, that circle part onto the sleeve, and I'm going to also sew this on a zigzag stitch. Next, I am going to sew the sleeves into the dress, but first I'm going to pin the sleeve on the dress, starting with the seams, and then pinning around, going around, making sure that the fabric is even on both sides throughout the sleeve area so that it won't have any bulking or uneven sleeve. Everything is even. Then when I am finished, I am going to sew that down on a zigzag stitch. Last but not least, we are going to sew our turtleneck part into the collar part of the dress. And I'm just going to match the seams together first, and then I'm going to put pins going around. And the way that I do that, I kind of gotta fold the collar going down, pin it, and then here I'm just sewing it on the sewing machine. And I'm going to also sew this on a zigzag stitch. This is the final look, you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and give me a thumbs up. And I will see you in my next one. Love, peace, and soul, sisters.
To WUTP Radio. We your hosts for the night, Cool and Trey. You're not locked in.